Imagine stepping into a car that didn't need gasoline, didn't care about leaded fuel, and could run on almost anything from diesel to kerosene, even tequila. In the early 1960s, Chrysler unveiled a machine that looked like it was pulled straight from the future, the Chrysler Turbine Car. Sleek, bronze-colored, and sounding more like a jet than an automobile, it wasn't just a car, it was the dream of an entire generation wrapped in steel. But here's the twist, less than a decade later, almost every single one of these cars was destroyed. Why? Let's dive into the story of one of the most fascinating, heartbreaking what-ifs in automotive history. The world of the 1960s was obsessed with the future. Space travel, jet engines, supersonic planes, everything felt possible. Automakers wanted to ride that wave of innovation, and Chrysler decided to think bigger than anyone else. Instead of just tweaking engines, they tried to reinvent the heart of the car itself. Their idea? A turbine engine. Unlike traditional pistons, this jet-inspired engine promised smooth power, fewer moving parts, longer life, and fuel flexibility that sounded unbelievable. Imagine a car you never had to tune up, that could burn almost any liquid fuel you poured in. For young people at the time, this wasn't just exciting, it was the promise of a new era of freedom on the road.
In 1963, Chrysler released a fleet of 55 turbine cars, painted in a shimmering turbine bronze finish. And here's where it gets even crazier. Instead of locking them away for executives, Chrysler handed these futuristic machines to ordinary American families. For 3 months at a time, people could live with the car that looked and sounded like nothing else on the road. When you turned the key, there was no rumble of pistons, just a smooth whine, like a jet engine spooling up. Neighbors would gather just to hear it start. Kids would beg for rides. For many families, driving the turbine car felt like being part of science fiction made real. But beneath the excitement, problems started to appear. Sure, the turbine could run on anything, but just because it could didn't mean it should. On kerosene or diesel, worked, but the smell was awful. On exotic fuels like tequila, it became more of a party trick than a practical solution. And while the car was smooth and nearly vibration-free, it had quirks: slow acceleration from a stop, lag in throttle response, and fuel economy that was worse than expected. Chrysler engineers worked tirelessly, but the reality was harsh. This futuristic dream still had one foot stuck in the limits of the present.
Then came the bigger battles. Emissions standards were tightening. Manufacturing costs were sky high. A turbine engine was far more expensive to produce than a traditional V8. And politically, there was pressure too. American oil companies and regulators weren't exactly thrilled about the idea of cars that could run on non-petroleum fuels. Chrysler faced a wall of challenges that weren't just mechanical, but economic and political. The turbine car wasn't failing in the eyes of drivers. People loved it, but in the boardrooms and government offices, it was running out of road. And then, the heartbreak. By the late 1960s, Chrysler ended the turbine program. Of the 55 cars built, 46 were ordered to be destroyed, melted down into scrap. Only 9 survived, scattered between museums and private collections. One sits in the Smithsonian, another in Jay Leno's garage. When people see them today, they don't just see a car. They see the ghost of an era when America believed the future had no limits.
Think about that for a moment. A car that could have changed everything, reduced maintenance, expanded fuel possibilities, and maybe even altered the course of automotive history, was silenced not by failure, but by circumstance. It's one of the greatest what-ifs in the history of cars. So here's the question I'll leave with you. If the Chrysler Turbine Car had been perfected and mass-produced, how different would our world look today? Would we still be arguing over gasoline vs electric? Or would turbines have taken us down an entirely different road? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this journey into forgotten automotive history, hit that like button and subscribe, because we've got plenty more rare stories, lost cars, and hidden legends coming your way.